Hey there, small business rock star. This week, we're going to dive into goal getting because setting goals is easy, but actually achieving them, that's the real trick. And it's a whole different game. So, if you've ever felt like your goals drain you instead of drive you, this episode should hopefully change the way that you approach your goals. But before we jump in, I'd ask you to drop a comment below. What's one goal that you've set but struggled to stay motivated to achieve? Makes me think, right? I've got a few that I can share, but I'll wait for your comments and then we'll jump into that. So, welcome back to another recorded edition of Small Business Saturday. I said last week that we should be live this week, but I was only looking at the volleyball schedule. I forgot that, and I'm really excited. Actually, I'm heading to Irving, Texas, to present out there, Marketing Better in 2025. So I will actually be in the middle of the class while this thing is playing for us at noon Central Time on Saturday. But we should be back live next week. I made a couple promises that I didn't keep, so I apologize. And I'll share more about that at the end of this program because next week we have a little something extra special as well. Now, make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you share this episode with other business owners who might need to hear this. And if you are ready to dive in, I am as well. So let's get pumped up first. Here we go.
Dark days, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we broke through, we rise above. No more feeling stuck, we're fueled by love. Our small business is shining, reaching new heights. With the support of our success group, we're taking flight. The power is strong, the vision so clear. Building our dreams with no more fear. Together we're resilient, unstoppable force. With our success group.
Let's talk some business.
All right, let's talk some business here. So we are going to stick with our normal order of pillars this week: mindset, fundamentals, and then wellness. And so starting out with mindset here, I want to make sure that we first understand the difference between setting goals and getting goals with regards to how they're positioned in our minds, right? So we've talked on many broadcasts before about the idea of goal setting versus goal getting. You go back to the beginning of the year here in 2025, in fact, all the way back to December 30th. We started talking about that. We had 4 episodes in a row where we're talking about goal getting versus goal setting. But this part with how it's positioned in your mind is also equally important. A goal that isn't aligned with who you are will always feel like a struggle, right? And I know because I've done this that we set goals typically based on external expectations, right? What we believe we should be doing. Well, this looks like the model of success to me, so I have to copy that, or I need to be an X number dollar a year business, or I'm not a real business, or we may have had somebody say that to us or something along those lines. But here's the reality. When your goal isn't tied to your strengths, values, and passions, it very quickly becomes something that you have to do rather than something that you get to do. And anytime we're misaligned with our goals from our strengths, values, and passions, it's going to create resistance. Right? And if you've ever felt like you've set a goal and then that felt like it was a constant uphill battle, right? The 99% certain that meant that you were out of alignment. It didn't mean anything else. There was no other story associated with it other than it just wasn't the right goal for you. It wasn't aligned with who you are. Let me give you an example. Maybe you're somebody that loves deep connections and really just creating relationships. But because of what you see as success from other people, you've set goals that basically lead you to this high volume, really high volume type sales, low personalization opportunities, low opportunities for relationships. And that's going to leave you feeling drained. But if you were to shift that goal to serve fewer clients, maybe in a more meaningful way, that could create more excitement instead of burnout. And even if the financial number is the same, right, we can still look at it both ways, right? High volume, low touch. How many can I do? X amount of profit, right? Lower volume, higher touch, wider profit margin, still same profit, right? So when you're out of alignment, that's going to feel like that uphill battle. Now, on the flip side of this, an aligned goal is going to just feel natural. It's going to like create excitement for you each and every day. Because when your goal reflects your strengths, values, and passions, right? When it reflects those strengths, it's going to excite you. And that motivation is going to come naturally to you. You're not needing to force yourself to work towards it. It actually is pulling you towards it. So the first way to really look at this from a mindset perspective is when you've set your goal, the best goals don't require constant willpower, right? They make sense based on who you are and what you naturally gravitate towards. So if your mindset is oriented towards having a goal aligned with your SVPs instead of being based on what you think others would see as a goal, that alone, just that change in mindset will change the ability that you have to actually achieve your goal, right? So there's our mindset shift. We got to get that right. Understanding that we got to let go of all the noise, all the outside comparisons, pressures. This is what success is. Only you can define what success is for you. So make sure that you change that mindset and you say, okay, what is aligned with what my strengths are, what my values are, and what I'm passionate about, and see how that goal feels and works differently for you. And with that mindset, then now we can jump to the pillars, right? The fundamentals, the practical application of this. And really, ultimately, from that change of mindset, the practical application is going to really reveal itself. But we have to rewrite our goal. We have to, as I mentioned with the one idea where maybe it was a certain profit number that you're working towards, it might still be the exact same kind of end result, but rewritten in a way that is aligned with who you are, what your strengths, your values, and passions are. So the first thing to do is to really, truly, honestly ask yourself the question, do your current business goals excite you? Do they make sense based on what you truly want? Again, we've got to give yourself the space and free yourself from the noise of all of that outside. This is what success is. If you're not 10xing your business, you're failing. I've even heard certain business coach / guru types tell people, well, if you don't have a storefront, you're not a real business. How is that true? Especially in today. And this wasn't like 50 years ago, right? This wasn't like when I was a kid. This was something I heard somebody tell somebody recently, even in our decorating industry. I was a little bit appalled for that person, but that's neither here nor there, right? So understanding, letting go of all of those shoulds, and just what is it for you, right? If you were to transport yourself into the future, just visually into the future, right? Okay, it sounds a little woo-woo, but just do it. What if this works? Okay, close your eyes, transport yourself into the future. You're standing in January of 2026. Maybe let's say the first day of January 2026. You're standing there, you just woke up. You had a wonderful New Year's Eve party with family and friends, but you're feeling excited. You're feeling refreshed. Even if you've got a little bit of a hangover, you're really just going, man, what a great year 2025 was. And from that place, what was that success? What was it that happened, that occurred, that allowed you to wake up on January 1st, 2026 and go, yeah, I got a little bit of a hangover, but I'm just so proud of myself. That was such a great year. I can't believe what I was able to accomplish, right? And that's what the real goal should be. So answering that question. And one of the first things that we can do once we start answering that question is maybe you do want to shift away from numbers to impact. And I'm not saying this is always true. Like I talked about before, we can look at something and still have the exact same result. But I have found that most of the time people pick a number that's just arbitrary. It's like, for me, the number is impacting 1,597 people with mastermind programs. Okay. So, but that number is not arbitrary to me. That means something to me. It's a Fibonacci number, I believe. There's a deeper rooted meaning that I can't even really describe, but it showed up. It was like, and it was right for me. But a lot of times, we'll say, oh, well, I want to make $100,000 this year. I want to make $200,000 this year. I want to make $300,000 this year. I'm going to be $1 million business this year. Okay. But does that really drive you? Right. So maybe you can leave it the same, but maybe you reframe your goal and you ask yourself, how many people do I need to serve to reach that number? Right. So if I wanted to be, let's say, $250,000 a year business, and that 1,597 number was right for me, I could reframe it from saying, my goal is to reach $250,000 in sales this year, to saying, through impacting 1,597 lives with the power of a mastermind program, we will generate $250,000 in sales. Now that's different right now, because that does two things for me. A, now it's impactful. Now it's deeper rooted. B, now I also have some guardrails, right? Because I could easily go out and impact 1,597 people, make all these free mastermind programs and do all this stuff. Now I know that if I did that, people wouldn't actually get the value out of it because there's no investment for them and they're not going to take the action. But it also then helps me say, okay, what does the number need to be? How can I set up this program in such a way that I achieve that financial goal, but I base it on the impact that I'm going to create? So that's one shift that you can make from a practical standpoint here. The next shift that you might want to look at as you're reframing or rewriting your goals here is, a lot of times we look at the obstacles that we have in front of us and we go, oh, well, that's why I'm not going to create or achieve that goal, right? But what if you turn that obstacle into an opportunity, right? If your goal is feeling overwhelming, try connecting it to your strengths. Right? So if your strength, let's just use me as an example, my strength is impact, right? And if it felt overwhelming to try to generate $250,000 in sales, the sales speaks nothing of impact to me, right? And so if I convert that and I say, oh, if I, again, going back to how I rewrote it before, if I'm generating this much impact, now generating the sales just becomes a byproduct, and that feels like a more natural flow. Same result, different rewrite of the goal. And then last but not least here in this kind of area here, as we are discussing the fundamentals and how we can potentially rewrite our goals, is to make your goal a mission. Now, we'll stay on my example for right now, and I've got another example that I want to share with you in just a second here. But when your goal is tied to something bigger than yourself, it honestly is way more difficult to give up on that, right? Because if I have made a commitment to do something for someone else, right, now there's accountability. But internal, right, who's going to know if I don't reach my goal, if I don't tell anybody about it, right? And there's all the other parts of being a goal getter that you can go back and find in earlier Small Business Saturdays episodes. If you want to go look. If you want to get a direct link to it, all you got to do is direct message me, reach out to me on Facebook or LinkedIn, or even send me an email, aaron@oursuccessgroup.com, and say, hey, I'd like more information on becoming a goal getter. And I will send you to the direct link, or you can just go into our YouTube channel and at liveosg.com, and you can search that up and see what you can find about being a goal getter, right? So all those things are true, but back to making this our mission. Now, again, it becomes much harder to give up on it. I could much more easily give up on myself because I start doing things in my head like, well, who's going to know? Oh, I'll justify it. We're justification machines. But when it's something bigger, right, it's much more difficult to explain. So let me give you another example, right? We've talked about the example of me, and obviously that's an easier story for me to tell because it's me, right? It just rolls right out. But this also stood out. I was working with one of our Masters of Success members recently, and she was clearly struggling to connect with a revenue goal, and rightfully so. It just wasn't her. And as we began to talk more about, again, not about the goal, and more about like what's important to you, what are your strengths, what are the things that are your values, which some might consider, these are our non-negotiables. These are things that just are so important to us. This is how we operate our daily lives. And then what are you passionate about? And her strengths were kindness and love. Her values were all about selflessness and giving back. And her passions really at the core were people. She just loved other people. She loved loving on them. She just like everything in her world and life is about other people. And so as we were talking about that, I started to realize that, I wonder if the disconnect here is the fact that her goal is based on revenue. Because in all of my knowledge of her, there is no that money, not that money's not an object, right? Like everybody, we've got bills to pay, and we do need to create revenue, and profit's not a dirty word. And that's what we're in business to do, is to create a living for ourselves and our families. But at the end of the day, I think if she could afford to give it away, she'd give it away. Right. And a lot of the people that I get to work with are heart-centered entrepreneurs, and that's probably one of their biggest challenges. If they were able to give it away, they'd give it away. Right. If I was able to give it away, I'd give it away. I give away all of me as much as I can afford to give away. But the reality is, we know that it doesn't have as much value if we just give it away. So that's a whole nother subject and topic. But as we were unpacking this, right, that realization came to me, and I think it was coming to her at the same time. And so we held on to that same revenue goal, but we shifted it. Right. It did become more about impact. It did become more about mission. It did become more about her strengths, right? Love and kindness. And so once we just changed that, it totally changed the whole energy. The end result is still going to be the same, but the focus of how it's going to happen changed. And so I'm not saying that your goal shouldn't be numbers driven. In fact, I love numbers driven goals because they give us something very concrete and easy to track. But if there's not a deeper purpose behind that number, it's just an arbitrary number that you think will give you the success you desire, then it's time to reframe it. Right? So just that's the practical application in all of this. And I want to hear from you guys. Again, I know this is recorded, and so we don't have a chance to interact live, and I don't like that necessarily, but I want to make sure that we continue to get this content out there. And my travel schedule has been a little crazy, so it's all good, right? We're still here. You guys can jump in the comments. Heck, better yet, in fact, let me just put it up on screen here. Why don't you go jump and create a post over in our Facebook group? I thought it was going to, there it is, handy right there. osg.link/group, create a post, talk about your goal, put your goal in there. And if you're struggling to get connected to it, ask questions, right? I might give you some public advice, but more than likely I'm going to direct message you as well and say, hey, can we talk about that? I'm going to give of myself because, again, I'd give it away just like you. So we can do this together, but you've got to be the one to raise your hand and say, hey, I want to dig deeper into this. All right. And I love all of our Masters of Success members. They're the ones that are active, and you can see it, right? You can see that they're the ones active inside the group here. They're the ones that are reaching out and stuff like that. And so they're the ones making progress. And I just hope that the rest of you guys inside of the OSG community here can see that and understand that it's okay to reach out, even if you're not part of the Masters of Success You will get there. I'm not going to try to sell you on it. When it's right for you, it will be right for you. If it's never right for you, that's totally fine. That doesn't change the fact that I would love to make an impact on people in a positive way, shine my light, let God shine his light through me is what's ultimately happening. So if you guys can help me with my fulfillment, I will help you with whatever I can. All right. So I'm going to start wrapping this up. We've had a great conversation so far, at least I believe so. So I'm excited to hear from you guys and see what your take is on all this. But we do need to get the wholeness of who we are. Right. So we started with our mindset. We got our minds right. Then we got the practicality. We got the movement. We're taking action. But we also need to be aware of the wellness aspect of why this is so important. Right. And ultimately, from the wellness side, the way I look at this is when we reframe our goals in a way that's aligned with our strengths, values, and passions, when we take the fundamental formula and we put it on top of our business and what we do every day, it allows for this motivation that we don't have to generate, right? It's not this fake fire. It's not, I got to fake it till I make it. You just have this motivation that, you might go, man, I don't even know where this came from, but I just can't wait to do the next thing, right? Your day feels more like I get to instead of have tos. And ultimately, I think we look at motivation and we go, oh yeah, it's, I got to push harder. Or, oh, I'm going to be motivated, and we squeeze and we constrict. But it's not that. It's not about pushing harder. Actually, motivation should be free. It should just be natural extension of you being connected to your goal. And so when you fully align your goal with your why, with your strengths, values, and passions, right, you make your goal more than just a number, like we talked about in the fundamental section here. It will inspire you, because I've found for myself and a lot of the people that I get to work with that when it's just a number, there's no connection there. It's not going to inspire you. There's not a deeper purpose. And honestly, I think our subconscious doesn't really have the ability to rationalize those material things, right? We need our subconscious to allow us energy and emotional resilience to push through challenges. And so one of the best ways to do this, once you've started aligning it with your why, is to really then break it down into the milestones. Because when it's aligned with the why, then you're going to find that there were a lot of steps that you thought you were going to need to take, or that you should take to achieve this goal, that may just not feel important anymore. And then there also might be things that you missed because it wasn't aligned with your why. And so you didn't think it was important. It lost its kind of deeper meaning. And so breaking down those goals into smaller specific targets and little areas to kind of like putting dots on the map, right? Then you're going to have more quick wins. It's going to feel more natural. And again, added motivation, free of charge motivation. That's what we're looking for. And then the second part of this wellness shift here, when it comes to aligning our goals with our why and using the fundamental formula here, is we can also start shifting the language that you're using. Right? So I have to hit this goal. I get to reach this milestone and impact more people. Just the vibration, just the feeling in each of those statements will bring a different kind of energy, will bring a different kind of action. And this really stood out to me. I was talking to my 13-year-old last week, maybe a couple weeks ago is when this came up. I can't remember exactly. And we were talking about this idea of goals, but financially and all this other stuff. And he said, "Dad, money doesn't have a soul." And I was like, mind blown, right? Like, he's right. I want to know what YouTube video he was watching, where he heard that. Maybe that showed up for him, and I hope so. But money itself isn't a motivator, right? Like, we can see that in our businesses. I'm sorry, not in our business. And if you have employees, right, you can see that money is only a motivator to a certain point. And then at a certain point, they're just clocking in and clocking out. Right? And you're going to do the same. If you're just driving for money, you're going to get to a certain point where your subconscious is just clocking in and clocking out. But impact, but purpose, but being aligned to your strengths, values, and passions, that's what really matters. That's what is your soul, and that's what has soul. So, what I've discovered for myself and for other successful business owners that I've been able to work with is they don't necessarily chase goals. They align their goals with who they already are. Right. So take that and just sit with that for a second. They don't chase goals. They align their goals with who they already are. So how are you doing that, or how are you not doing that? Right. Reach out to me. Consultaaron.com if you want to reach out to me directly. I'll put that up on screen, consultaaron.com, or my email address, success@oursuccessgroup.com. How are you aligning your goals with who you already are? All right. Now, let me close with this. If you've ever struggled to stay motivated or really feel disconnected from your business goal, I hope that this is your wake-up call. That this, what you're hearing here today, tells you that it's time to shift from goal setting to goal getting, and that you now understand and see why it starts with alignment. So I want to challenge you to invite a fellow small business owner to the Entrepreneur Success Hub over here at Facebook, at our Facebook group, osg.link/group. And the first step is just surround yourself with people who are also building businesses that actually inspire them. So that's the first step. Second step, I want you to think about it, right? Maybe it's for you, maybe it's not for you. I truly believe that this is the first step, and this is what I've seen, and this is how we work together with people in the mastermind, for example, is we look at their alignment, right? Their strengths, values, and passions. We call this the SVP business alignment assessment and strategy call. And so if you'll go to osg.link/SVP, you can sign up to just take put a little bit of information in this form. You don't have to fill it out like in depth or detail, just as whatever you can in the time that you have available to you, and then schedule a call and we'll work out the rest of the details together in that 30-minute call that we get to do together. Completely no charge. Again, it's about impact for me. And so this is a great way to start. If there's more beyond that, then we'll know each other better so we can move forward into that, or I can leave you with some things and you go, cool, thank you, Aaron. Not for me. I'm moving on to where the right pasture is for me, so to speak. Now, so I would highly encourage you guys to do that. osg.link/SVP. Great opportunity to align your goals with your strengths, values, and passions. And then before you go, I really invite you to like this video if you got value out of today. Make sure that you are subscribed, whether that's on Facebook, you're following us here, or better yet, go to liveosg.com. I don't know if, yep, I do have it here, which is our YouTube channel. And you can subscribe over there, hit that bell, make sure that you're made aware of every new episode. We're putting out Small Business Saturdays, Rising Tide Talks on Wednesdays, a couple other videos here and there, definitely a Tuesday, little short kind of recap video that you can take a lot of other nuggets out of. So, and then last but not least, I'd really appreciate it if you'd share this with a business owner that needs to hear this. Get them into our Facebook group, ask them to subscribe on our YouTube channel. And, the rising tide lifts all boats, but we've got to be active participants before we can get on the tide to be lifted up, right? And part of being an active participant is bringing other people to the table. So that's what I've got for you guys today. It's been exciting for me to be able to share this. This is something that you guys can obviously tell I'm very passionate about. And as I mentioned, next week, fingers crossed, we should be back live. Now, here's why I say fingers crossed. On the calendar, yes, I'm going to be in town. Yes, my wife is going to be around. So the goal is to do this live. Now, here's where it might get a little tricky, but this is going to be good. Next Saturday is also our board retreat for the grace period, which I've been blessed to be asked to be the chairman of the board for that. And so we will be at the 80/20 studios here in O'Fallon, Missouri, spending some time together. And I'm going to be able to share a lot of the fundamentals and things like that during that time. But part of what we decided is we're going to take a break at noon. We're going to, make sure that we're all set and ready to go. And my goal is to do this live from 80/20 Studios. And we're going to talk about moving out of the plant phase here. So these first three areas of the fundamental formula, oops, sheet somewhere else. I must have dropped it. But the first three areas of the fundamental formula were all about the plant section, which is really kind of the mindset, make sure we're heading in the right direction with goal setting, mindset mastery, and clarifying your reason. And next week we start into the building, the first creation of our business, and refining and making sure that our business foundation is aligned with our SVPs. And we're going to start in the marketing foundation. Right? So things like redefining our brand and better identifying your ideal customer and creating messages that truly resonate with your ideal customer. So that's what we're going to be talking about next week. I am going to have a backup recording just in case things fall off the rails. So one way or the other, there will be information about that next Saturday. And I can't wait to hopefully get back live with you guys so we can be interacting in the comments directly live. But in the meantime, comment on this on YouTube, and I will make sure to check that out, or comment on this on our Facebook channel or even on LinkedIn. And on Facebook and LinkedIn, if you could tag me, that would be fantastic. And I will make sure that we continue that conversation. All right. You guys have an awesome rest of your Saturday, and we'll see you soon.
Dark days, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we broke